Hey, everybody, welcome to the Bold, Unstoppable Show. I'm Rochelle Marie Lawson, the Queen of Feeling Fabulous, and I got a really impactful, powerful topic to discuss today with you all. I've got two fabulous ladies with me, Dr. Marcia and Marquetta, and we are going to be really talking about something that we women, no one's talking about. And so let me just open up the show. First of all, if you like the show, subscribe to the show, share it with everyone you love and care about, because we really discuss some things for women, about women, and the issues we face in today's society. And so today's show is titled "She Stands: Voices United for Women's Rights in America." And this is very instrumental. This is an election year for us, and no one's really addressing what's happening with our rights as women in America. And we set the trend for everything across the world. So it's really, really important that we start having dialogue about what's going on, which is what this show is all about. Now, in an era where the fabric of women's rights is being both celebrated and challenged, the Bold Unstoppable Women Show presents a compelling panel with my guests, Dr. Marcia and Marquetta. And we're going to dive into the ever-evolving landscape of women's rights here in America. This heart-to-heart conversation, discussion is not just about tracing the journey of women's rights and recognition, but also about acknowledging the resilience, the courage that have defined this path for us women in the U.S. And as we gather under this banner of empowerment, wisdom, unity, and we invite others to engage in the conversation with us, I want you to just sit back and think about some of the stuff that we are going to be sharing and talking about today. From victories that have made us proud to the challenges that remind us that we still have a long journey ahead of us. Our discussion aims to light the way for future generations while honoring the legacy of us fearless women like the three of us here who have paved the way so that our future female generations don't have to have so much of a challenge as we may have embarked on in our journey. So let's come together and celebrate our strides, address our struggles, and envision a future where every woman's rights are not just recognized, they're revered, and they're not being taken away from us. And so I'm going to allow my panelists, before we get into the discussion, to introduce themselves. Oh, Dr. Nima was able to join us. Dr. Nima.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, so we're in the introduction. Thank you, ladies, again for being present here. We're gonna hit it tight. We got 30, probably 33 minutes. So do a quick 30-second introduction of who you are, what you do, and then we'll get started. So Marquetta, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself first?
Absolutely. First and foremost, I would like to thank you and honor you for allowing me to be a part of this amazing platform. I am, like you stated, I am Marquette L. Walker. I am a coach. I am a minister. I am entrepreneur. I'm an author of Divorced But Not Defeated. I also, the coach, I am a motivational, inspirational coach for winning women. So this is so fitting to be a part of this. And I also, what else am I? I'm so many things. Also, did I say entrepreneur? I think I did.
Yes, ma'am.
But yeah, so those are the things that I do and just help women heal first so they are able to win.
I love it. All right. So Dr. Girl, I gave you the title doctor. I feel like it should be Dr. Rochelle Marie Lawson, Dr. Marquette. And hey, but oh well, you've been titled today for the show. All right, Dr. Marcia.
Yes, thank you again for the platform. I am Dr. Marcia, and I feel right at home. I haven't met a stranger I didn't know, but these ladies here, I know you very well. But I am Dr. Marcia, and I am a physician for over 30 years, also a master destiny life coach. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I am a life and business coach. But I'm also a woman, and I speak on women's empowerment. And it is just so good to be here. And one of the books that I wrote is called Marked from Birth, The Transformational Journey from Flawed to Fabulous. And so as we kind of go through this conversation, I'm going to be pulling some of that information through as well. Thank you.
I love it. All righty. And now we bringing it up, Dr. Nima Moore. Girl, tell us about you.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Nima Moore. I am a chiropractor, speaker, Amazon bestselling author, And I just love to help women to become healthy and confident from the inside out. I do that through chiropractic, which is where I am right now in my office, functional medicine, as well as everyone's favorite, my luxury wellness retreats and experiences stateside and international. And I'm just happy to be here. Thank you so much, Rochelle, for inviting me to come to the panel.
You're very welcome. Thank you, ladies, for saying yes. So now I want to jump in to the conversation and have this dialogue. And so my first question to you panelists are reflecting on our progress, looking over the past few decades, what are some of the pivotal moments that have significantly impacted women's rights in America? And whoever wants to go ahead and take that, start the dialogue with that, feel free.
Mm-hmm. So I will jump in, and I don't remember the Supreme Justice when there was something that happened way back when, and he and she, and kind of it was the Me Too movement, right? I thought that was, and if you can throw out the name, that would help me as well. But in that moment, all eyes were on that situation where folks were now taking sides, and whether or not she had proof or not, we believed her, but she was up against so much. I'm going to say she had a fight, and she ended up losing. And what it also did is it made women say, you know what, even if I'm telling the truth, I go up and say such and such did it. And now my life is now torn apart because I spoke up. And I think that was a critical moment. We're talking about the voices, the voice of women. When instances like that happen, it makes women shrink. It makes people say, you know what? I'm not going to tell the truth. I'm not going to share what's on my heart. And that right there is the epitome of what happens every single day for those women who have been sexually assaulted, molested. It happens for those women who are under emotional and physical abuse. And I think that moment right there is the moment that I think changed. It was already changing, but it was pivotal for me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as part of someone that experienced some of those things that those ladies was coming out in the Me Too movement, back when I was experiencing those challenges of one, my gender and my race, and not being able to get on a playing field, even though I had the credibility and the credentials, nobody really addressed it. It wasn't an issue. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, that's just your problem. But it wasn't my problem. It was a problem for every woman that looked like me. And so when that Me Too movement stuff came out, I remember it brought up a lot of stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, stuff I had packaged way, way down back. And I was like, you know what? I had that happen to me. I experienced that. And so this is one of the reasons why it's so important to have these dialogues, because there's so many women that have had and went through something, but they only feel that it's them. And when they come up to the forefront to mention it, it's downcasted, because most likely it's some man that says, oh, it's just in her mind. You know what I'm saying? Or she didn't really experience it like that, or she just making this up because she's trying to get paid. And that's not necessarily true. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not necessarily true. And so I want to continue with that conversation so we have these moments, and we have these milestones or things that come up. How do these milestones resonate with any of your personal or professional experiences? Have any of you ever felt some kind of way as you were doing your job, or just being an African-American woman in today's society?
Oh, I will speak to that. And I'm going to be totally vulnerable, because I've been on the domestic violence side. I've been married multiple times, divorced. And to be exact, I mean, I tell people I don't speak of it proudly, but it's something that needs to be spoken of, because this was not talked about in corporate, and is definitely not talked about in the churches, where most people are running to get help. And then in corporate, we shrink back. We don't want to let them know that, we're divorced because we want a promotion. They won't promote us women because then they say that we are unstable. We don't know how to handle our business and we can't handle our home. So how can we handle a position at work? So a lot of times, like you stated earlier, is that we shrink back. We even though we need to talk about it, but we're afraid to talk about it. Like myself, I carried the burden of shame for years, and I'm gonna say about 40, almost 40 something years before I came out to tell my story about domestic violence or being married multiple times, because you're not, who's out there to help you, or they're going to make you feel worse than what you feel already. Until I said, I'm going to be a powerhouse. I'm going to tell my story because I need to help other women. And also in corporate, I went up the corporate ladder. In spite of what they said, I still had the plaques on the wall with all the different last names, and I was still moving up the ladder. No, you're not going to hold me back. I'm going to keep moving. So, and that's why I tell my story, because I do want women to move forward in whatever they have. They are somebody. You don't have to walk around with shame. You don't have to dumb yourself down because of society and what they feel and what they say. You are who God created you to be, and you have to move in that and know who that is.
Go, girl, preach. I feel like we're gonna have some,
Yes.
we have some services. We just need the choir in the back.
Listen.
You know what I'm saying? Just to throw down like some. I'm gonna call my girl Whitney. Bless her heart. Rest in peace, Whitney. But
Right.
having Whitney singing up there on the altar, and we just like having church in here because this is some for real stuff.
It is.
For domestic violence. I'm a child of a family from domestic violence, and I remember like when things would happen between my mom and dad, they would call the police. She would call the police, and they would come to the house, wouldn't do nothing. They would tell my mom to pack us some clothes and get away for a little bit, and they would just sit there and talk to him, and then we go on, but you know how it is when you're in love, you're married, you just go back, right? But I remember that. Fast forward, things have changed for the better, but they're still slowly reverting back, because now it's always our voice or what we have to say against what the man has to say. And the man, if it's other men, they always go side with the man. That's just how it is. Okay, so now we have this current landscape, and in today's socio-political climate. What do you see as the biggest challenges facing women's rights today, right now, as we are in this election year? Anybody who want to jump in?
I'll jump on that. First of all, I want to say, Marquette, thank you so much for sharing and being authentic and vulnerable, because the topic we were just talking about is something that so many women deal with, and in the United States, and no one is talking about it. So I just wanted to say that, you're not alone. You are not alone in that conversation. I think, of course, women's rights when it comes to their bodies, when it comes to, being able to, make decisions over their body. I think that's going to be a huge political topic that comes up between the political parties, and which side, that people decide that they want to fall on. I think that's a huge topic. People want to know, what are the decisions that our politicians and our state representatives what side are they going to fall on with this issue? And I think it's so challenging because, we have people out there, especially our male counterparts, making decisions for us and our bodies when, they don't understand, the things that we have to go through. This is why it's so important for women to have a seat at the table. This is why it's so important for us to have women politicians, women in politics, from not just the federal level, but the state level, what's going on in your county, what's going on your school board. Those seats are just as important when it comes to these type of decisions, when it comes to dealing with women's bodies and issues.
Anybody else want to talk on that? Because I got a lot to say. Well, I'm gonna jump in. So as a nurse, and having that background of emergency room trauma nursing and flight nursing, I've seen some of the good, the bad, and the very, very ugly. And I remember having young ladies in their teens that were working on the track, as we say in the hood, but on the streets, prostituting themselves, coming in, beat up, they were raped, and we have to do the sexual assault, get the sexual assault kit out and just do all kind of stuff. And they felt so belittled and so afraid and so unseen and so unheard. And I'm fast forwarding now to today where we have this, here's the thing. I don't care where you are on the side as a woman, pro-choice, pro-life. It's not about that. It's not about that. It's about someone telling you what you can and you cannot do with your body,
Exactly.
right? And it's a man.
Exactly.
Now, I'm going to bring it up and I'm going to be, quite cavalier with it, but how about these men that are in their later years of life that can no longer functionally have an erection, but yet they have the opportunity and availability. They even have commercials on TV where these men can go and order stuff to help them have an erection. But that's okay. That's okay. But we can't decide what we want to do with our body if we were raped and we're carrying a child that is a product of this rape. I know somebody who was raped. Her mom was raped. She was the product. The mom was committed to a mental institution. And later this lady grew up and had significant problems and was committed because she realized she was a product of a very brutal rape. And she wished her mother would have aborted her because it just had a lot of bad energy on her. But for somebody to tell us what we can do and can't do without our body, like, you mean if I got raped, I've got to have a baby? You know what I mean? Or if my baby is developing and it's going to be a baby that's not going to be healthy and it's going to require a lot of extensive medical care, and I have the right to choose where I can, let that go or continue. That should be my right. That should be my choice, not somebody outside of me that's not even my gender making decisions for us. The other thing is we have politicians that are females that are all on board with this. What the hell is going on with the women that's in politics? And our vice president has not said not one iota word about it. We don't hear her say anything about women's rights yet. She's a woman. And so these laws that they're trying to put in steel in all of these states can affect each and every one of us. Why are we taking ourselves back? Women died for us to have this right. And what we're saying to those women that died for us is your life didn't mean shit. Didn't mean anything, because now we're allowing men to just continue dictating to us what they want us to do. But we can't dictate to them what we want them to do. How about be faithful? How about, age like us women? We got to go through menopause. Y'all got to go through menopause, just live with it. We get a certain age, we can't bear children anymore. We okay with that. We don't get a period. We okay with that. Y'all should be the same in age gracefully. We're not trying to take away their rights, but that's just the start. And so how has a woman of boldness and unstoppability, the four of us are, how can we help women to navigate these challenges? And this is just one. There's other challenges as well, but this is one. What are your thoughts about how can we help women to navigate and understand the true complexity of what's going on here in America?
Yeah. So as a physician, my thoughts are, and I've had the same stance throughout my training, is that I want women to have choice. It doesn't matter what I think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I tell folks what the options are, and then you make your choice.
Mm-hmm.
So being specific about your question, Rochelle, is that it didn't just start with abortion,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It started a long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the same mentality, which is someone has control over you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's institutionalized, but then we also believe that it's true. And there's some on an individual level, I think those young women who grew up in a space where they know their voice matters and they can decide how they want it to go, they are blessed. I think some of us, and I've also been a victim of emotional abuse, I remember getting to a place where I didn't believe I had a choice. I didn't believe I could speak up. I didn't believe that I could decide for myself. And so I call it, I boxed myself in to a place because I didn't want the friction. I didn't want to have a conflict. And so what ended up happening is I started to shrink and shrink and shrink. And my voice also shrunk and shrunk and shrunk. And so I think part of it is us acknowledging, you know what? We do have a voice. And I need to start exercising my voice. They're not going to like it, but we have to speak up. We have to challenge those boundaries in order to create freedom for ourselves.
Love it. I love it. Very eloquently said. I mean, I am in 100% agreement with you. And sometimes we do feel when we get in that, we get boxed in that, we do shrink. We do shrink, emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally, and our health begins to have challenges as well. So oh man, that was beautiful. Okay, so now I want to move to this, the role of leadership. How do you believe leadership in both the public and private sectors have shaped the course of women's rights?
Mm.
I can speak on that, but I'll start off then. So I think in leadership, there's so many times. So I started my first business in a male dominated industry, and I was the one female in that particular industry. And it seemed like after that, every position, so to speak, that I was offered that wasn't part of my business was I was the only female. I sat on a board of directors for a major healthcare organization in California for 25 years, and I was the only female.
Wow.
And that whole 25 years. And I never really thought about it until the Me Too movement came out. And I was like, you know what? But my mindset was if they could be comfortable with me as a woman, I was opening the door for other women to have the opportunity. Now there's other women on the board. Now I'm not longer on the board, but it was, there was so many instances like that. And I often wondered, like, am I just that chick? No, I can't be just that chick because there are other women that are killing it. They're killing it way, way beyond the stratosphere where I ever probably will get to, but we don't hear them and we don't see them. And so I think it's very important for women, I don't care what color you are, what race you are, that you take command of being the leader in whatever it is you want to be. And if they don't make a seat for you, you create your own table.
There you go.
So, Rochelle, I want
Right.
to interject.
Yeah.
Now. I think I know something about you that speaks to this. Can you correct me if I'm wrong? You grew up with brothers, correct?
I have one brother, but I grew up as the only granddaughter in the generation of kids. So there's a ton of boys.
Yes. And so I think our upbringing and our social situation, it allows us, it either helps us or it hurts us, right? So you grew up being the only girl. So now you fast forward to now you being on that board with only men. It was a no-brainer for you. You had the skills, you had the confidence and the skills, okay, in order to operate in that space. There are many of us who don't have that. We don't have those skills. And so that adds to us not speaking up, not sitting at the table, not knocking on the door and saying, hey, I'm here. Right. And so I think that's one of the pieces that is important as we kind of take the look at the landscape of where we are today.
Thank you. I love that. Dr. Nima, I know you're a chiropractor. In my experience, I could be totally off, but it seems to be more of a male-dominated practice.
Yes.
You are a chiropractor with your own practice, your own business, and I know that there's been instances where you were the only female in the room representing your profession. Can you share a little bit about how that made you feel? Yeah.
I am a unicorn in this profession because I'm a woman and I'm an African American woman. We are very, very difficult to find. I was one of 2 Black women that graduated in my class out of 200 students. So there was only 2 of us. So this has always been a very male dominated field. to the point where we were at about like 20% graduating. Now it's 50%, believe it or not. A lot of women are getting into the field. But when I was coming out, and the chiropractors that are my age, it's male dominated. So it was a lot of, even now, especially if I walk into the room for a continuing education credit, they are looking at me like, why am I here? Or who are you? Or, a lot of, you know, even in the office, I had to correct some when I'm filling in for another doctor that, you don't address me by my first name. You like what,
Mhm.
you would never do that to probably a male doctor
Mhm.
that is here. And I definitely see it just in practice as far as how staff treat women doctors versus male doctors. Male doctors usually have women to coddle them, fix them lunch. They make sure that they don't miss any appointments. Whereas a lot of times women, I think our staff, who are usually women as well, look at us like, oh, they got it. They can handle it. They're superwoman. They don't seem to caretake of us as much as our male counterparts. So yeah, definitely have to show up in a lot of these, medical spaces or science spaces very strong and very confident, because they are going to look at you. They think you either don't know anything, you're not smart, you're not intelligent. If you have doctor in front of your name, they're surprised. They always just assume that you are a nurse all the time. And I mean, I'm sure that's not just males. I mean, I get it from women and men, and it's kind of probably an American culture, just culture globally, to not see women in these leadership roles. But that's why it's so important for us to walk into spaces and hold our heads high and know that we are either, following behind someone else who has paved the way, or trailblazing and paving the way as a leader.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that, because I can remember when I first became a nurse, the profession of physicians
And I'm
was
sorry, no shame on being called a nurse, Rochelle.
no. But here's the thing: the majority of the physicians I worked in the ER were males. I'm
Right.
gonna say 20% were females, and the rest are males, right? But as a nurse, I was check this out, y'all. I was the only female RN, no matter what hospital I worked at doing trauma, and my
Mhm.
colleagues were all male RNs. So when
Right.
I would walk in a room, it was no doubt I was the nurse. But when I would walk in a room with a male colleague who was also a nurse that just was in to have my back, oh, they'd be
Right.
like, "Oh, doctor," and he'd have, he got to correct me. No, I'm not the doctor. I'm the nurse. And people would be
Okay.
like,
They're confused.
yeah,
Mhm.
so I think it's just stereotypical,
Yes.
as well. But we women can command things, and I actually think sometimes we're deemed as we are not emotionally intelligent and sophisticated enough to handle the challenges of being a CEO, running the company, or being a physician, or being someone empowered. But in actuality, we're way more competent and comfortable with it than sometimes men are, because we're
Yes.
used to juggling many things, and sometimes men, all they do is work, come home, and everything is taken care of them. So for them, so I thank you for opening our eyes to that and reminding us that we are powerful, and we can be in these leadership positions. So now, okay, what role should upcoming leaders play to advocate for and protect these rights that so many people have fought and died for us to have? My
Well,
cat.
oh, go ahead. I was.
Yeah,
No,
so
whoever. Oh, girl, jump in.
so what role should we play in these leadership? First, I want to say this. I was thinking as I was listening to everyone speak, and we're talking about voices uniting women. Another thing that I do want to say that is not talked about, you hear this stuff, but a lot of times us women are fighting against women. It's not so much as men. So the thing is, when are we going to lock arms together? And then once we lock arms together and move going forward, then that's when we will be able to hold our ground. But if we're fighting against each other and not saying that, you know what, Dr. Marcia done paved the way for me, Rochelle paved the way, they all paved the way, so let me just follow in. They done made it easy for me. But no, we're too busy fighting against each other instead of seeing that they did some of the work, so let me just follow in their shoes. Or the ones that are in higher leadership roles, they get there and then they have to fight. But then a lot of times we still have to bulldoze through and say, you know what, if they're not going to invite me to their table, and I heard you say this, create your own. I'm a firm believer of that. Create your own table, invite people to it, because you can do your own thing. But we have to be able to, as women, because we can get catty sometime, and one get promoted, or one is a doctor or a nurse or whatever, and we're like, oh, how did she get that, or what is she doing? Did she have to sleep her way up? All that foolishness, when we're supposed to be sisters and holding it together, no matter what color, no matter what race we are all sisters, and we should all stand together. Now, we want society to fight for us, but we're not even fighting for each other.
Oh,
come on, we want our own rights, but we ain't even, we're coming together to build our own rights. So how is that happening? So I had that in my mind that I really wanted to get out. And I want women to hear this, because it's so many women are jealous of each other when we don't have to be. God has created us in our own image. He has in his image, but he gave us a plan, our own plan. He gave us our own stuff. We are uniquely made, right? Each of us, none of us are the same. So let's come on and join. If none of us are the same, let's pull together and be a force to be reckoned with.
Oh, dang, I wish I had my mic. I dropped it. I used to have like go drop. Those are some mic drops right there. You're absolutely right, though. Instead of locking arms and walking in solidarity like they did back in the women's suffrage movement, when African Americans supported that movement, even when we didn't get a right to vote until the 60s. Right. But 60 years prior, we're supporting that movement. We see people like Harriet Tubman, who was a soldier for real, right? Supporting a movement that she knows she's going to die and she's never going to be able to have the right to vote. But she knew the power and the wherewithal to be a part of that, and she was on those marches solidarily, arm in arm with the women. So it's women. We do need to come together and support each other. I always say nobody can do what you do like you do it. I don't care if you're a doctor or attorney or a CEO of a Fortune 1 billion company. I don't really care. Because no one can do what you can do like you do it, because the divine gave us all individual unique talents. And if we pull those talents together, we become a force to be reckoned with, and we become extremely powerful, and we can be the change agents to make the world a better place. Okay, I'm actually over time, but I got one more question that I want to ask with regards to this. So with regards to, intersectionality and inclusivity, how can we ensure that our efforts to advance women's rights are inclusive of all women, first of all, regardless of, where you are with regards to that, but inclusive of all women, regardless of race, socioeconomic status, or sexual orientation? And if anybody wants to comment on that, just, we're going to give 30 seconds, and then, we're going to transition on out of this discussion.
I think you have to be sensitive to other people's thoughts and who they are. And a lot of times I think we have our own who we are. And once you step out and you say something or you create something, you're not going to be perfect. You're going to figure out, you know what? Ooh, I left out this person. Ooh, I left out that person. Even when, Dr. Neiman, when you were mentioning about, being called a nurse, but then you were like, oh yeah, Rochelle, this has nothing to do with that, right? It's like you had what you wanted to say, but then when you realize that you may have, it was like a little, you're like, I'm sorry, you know what? I wasn't saying that about you, right? That goes a long way. When we realize, hey, I said something, or I didn't include this particular fraction of who women are, let me readjust and make sure that I'm inclusive.
I love it. Okay. Go ahead, Dr.
I just wanted to say, I think one of the greatest ways to help in those arenas is women showing up, no matter where you fall, in that category or not in that category, and just showing up even in these small organizations or your community. The best way to understand another person's point of view is when you know someone, when you have interacted with them. It softens your heart, you know, when you are having discussions, when you actually have friendships and relationships, and you're in organizations, and you're interacting with people that may not look like you, believe the same things as you. That's what helps, bridge the gap between, differences.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So I'm gonna have to have a part two of this because I have like 75,000 other questions. But this is a start, ladies, and I appreciate you and your time today. It's a start, and I think we need to have more conversations like this, and we need to be out there with it, because if we don't, we won't be able, there may be a time where our future female generations won't even be able to meet like this because some man decided that we shouldn't be getting together. You know what I'm saying? On virtual, or you know what I'm saying? It starts very, cancer doesn't start small. It starts as one cell that multiplies within our bodies, right? And so this is something that is like a cancer. It seems like it's small, but when you think about it and you hear about these different states, Arizona, Florida, these different states that have completely taken away a woman's right to choose to do what she wants to do with her body, it's going to spread like a wildflower if we allow these gentlemen to get their way. And the ladies that support these men that are trying to change these laws for us, shame on you, because you're actually just kicking yourself in the behind. You're actually just kicking yourself in the behind. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. All right, ladies. So thank you so much for being a part of the Bold Unstoppable Show. This is the show that we have these real conversations so that we can help enlighten and empower and uplift every woman, not just women that are Black like us, African American, but women of all races and all colors, because when we stand together with our arms locked, we can go so much further than when we're standing alone trying to do it by ourselves. And stop being catty. Support a sister. If she got stuff in her teeth, walk up to her, whisper in her, girl, you got something in your teeth. Come up, smile and look, she all cute, and she got people looking at her like, you see this stuff? Yeah. So I'm just gonna keep it real. But thank you all for being here as my panelist.
Thank you. Appreciate
you for watching. Share the show, subscribe to the show. The more we can engage in dialogue like this as women, the better it is for us and our society. And I am Rochelle Marie Lawson, the queen of feeling fabulous. And it's been my pleasure to have you all here with us on the Bold Unstoppable Show. Until next time, goodbye for now. Be bold, sassy, classy, sweet. No, maybe not too sweet, but definitely. Yes, I'm a mess. Bye, y'all.
Bye.